Hey guys, it's Diabolos back. I have another Card Fight Vanguard deck profile. So if you guys enjoy, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and donate to the Patreon. And let's get one started. Today, we have Dark States, Diabolos, Violence, Blues for set 3. This is honestly one of my favorite decks out of set 3, because it got a good amount of support. Weirdly enough, this is the one deck where I run very few set 3 support. Like, every card game I've played, there's always one set where there's always one set where I don't want to pick up cards from, whether the set's expensive or not, solely because I like the decks before that set and I don't want to mess with them. Like, quite literally, before the video between Seraph Snow and Barrow Magnus, I upgraded those decks then and there, and I did not do it beforehand because I honestly wanted nothing out of set 3 for them. And then I still put something in just so I could make it so that they're both set 3 decks to some extent, and I don't regret that decision, but a lot of the times I won't do that like for one set, and I guess set 3 is that set where I like a lot of the cards, but I don't want to put them in because I like the consistency that set 2 gave my decks. But this is one of the decks where I've compromised with it, and actually it has an interesting twist to it. Or, not a big twist, but just an interesting twist. So go ahead and get it started so we can see what it is. First up, our starter is Diabolos, Innocent Matte. 6k base, 5k shield, grade 0 with boost. Just a standard starter, auto when wrote upon. If you went second, you draw a card. Nothing too special about him. You know, he has that football feel to him, just like everyone else in this deck. Now, I hate this card now that I remember the word football, because this is completely off topic, but a V deck that I made, not a V deck, a premium deck that I made that my friend has chosen to call Football Death Team, which I made for him, killed me with a 116k Juggernaut maximum. And I am just ever so slightly salty about that, because I just remember of how, when I was building it, I questioned if I should have given it to him. I don't know why I just decided, yeah, I should give it to him, not realizing that I was going to die to a 116k Juggernaut effing maximum. Yeah, that's just something I'm salty about. I don't know why. That's not important. So anyways, this deck, it just has the same starter. Nothing too special about it. If the second they give Matt something good, though, I will love it. And we got, like, the guarantee that Bruce is going to get an Evolve form, so I really hope they mess with the ride line, too. No offense, Matt, but I like you, and I wish you get an evolution as well. On to our triggers, we run one over trigger and a Hades Dragon Deity of Resentment, Gallmageheld. I will always not say that name right the second I try it. 5k base, 50k shield, grade 0 with boost. Over triggering, you may have one over trigger in your deck. When revealed as a trigger unit, remove that card, draw a card, choose when it means it gets plus 1 million for the turn. If revealed during your draft check, activates additional effect, which is additional effect. You get, during your turn, all of your vanguards get plus 10k in a crit during this fight. So, you get that ability, not the vanguard. So you could just ride as much as you want, and it will always get that plus 10k in a crit. Now, in terms of effects, this is my favorite over trigger, because it has, besides the Lyrical Monasterio one, it has a long-lasting effect. I think Lyrical Monasterio is slightly better in the sense that it's a constant plus 10k to your rear guards, but I like this one more because it gets the 10k and a crit to the Vanguard, and especially because, like, the Vanguard's the one thing that's a constant on the field. Like, yeah, 10k to the rear guards does a lot, because there's always going to be more rear guards than Vanguards, but the problem is, that does nothing if, like, you don't have the resources to keep up with the rear guards. Like, if they kill your rear guards or prevent you from calling them, the Lyrical Monasterio over trigger does nothing. This over trigger, quite literally, is active as long as you have a Vanguard. So, and there's no way to get rid of the Vanguard. Like, even deleting it wouldn't stop you from getting the over trigger. It would just weaken the amount of power. So, all around, Gallmageheld, definitely Gallmageheld, one of my favorites over trigger, if not my favorite, just because that 10k in a crit, that does a lot, by the way. Whenever I pull this, those are the games I win. I have never lost a game where I pulled that, because normally I pull it really early on, or even when I don't, it puts up so much pressure that the opponent now has to guard the Vanguard constantly, to where eventually they can't guard anything because they've guarded everything too much, and then I just win by that. So all around, I like this over trigger. They did a really good job designing it in terms of art and effects. Definitely one of my favorites, if not the favorite. On to other triggers, we run 3 copies of Diabolos by Jake. Okay, before the riots start occurring, I run this because, and just like with Orphis, I don't know which one's going up first, I run this because it is a Diabolos card. Now, as much as all of you want to scream at me for that, I don't care. I really don't. I like the draw trigger. He gets you the hand cards that you need, because at some point you really might need those hand cards. Now with the new set 2 card, I do admit that there is slightly less of a point to him. Set 3 card, but there's slightly less of a point to him, but he's still useful because you need to draw it before you can actually use it. If you really want to replace this, replace it with the crit / the front with Diabolos in his card name, just to get more power / critical pressure, but I prefer the draw, because you cannot make plays if you do not have the cards to make plays with. That is literally my logic on this, and I approve a valid point, and you know it. 3 copies of the draw trigger. 4 copies of Diabolos Girl Natalia, 4k base, 15k shield, grade 0 with boost. Front trigger, you know its skill, continues guard circle. If your opponent vanguards a grade 3 or greater, gets plus 5k shield. So 20k shield. Nothing too special about it, just a straight up 20k guard, and I like it for that. All around, really nice. 4 of. 4 of Diabolos Gore Maimai, 5k shield, 15k shield, 5k base, grade 0 boost. You know, standard critical trigger, you run it for crit pressure. Once more, I don't run the other one mainly because it is not a Diabolos card. If you wanted to run it, go ahead. In my opinion, I don't want to run it because it's just not a Diabolos card. If it was, I would run it. So 4 copies of Maimai, or Maimai, and then 4 copies of Diabolos Girl Arianna, the heal trigger that I feel like hates me because every time I play a game with Diabolos, she ends up in my opening hand, or she is the first card I draw when the game starts. Like, before I even discard from my ride deck, I will draw her. It will either be in my opening hand or I will draw her from that. I don't know why. She will always show up on the first turn at the very least, and then I always draw a second one on my grade 3 turn. My first grade 3 turn. I don't know why. It is a constant thing that happens with this deck, but then I always damage check the other 2, so I'm not so sure how to feel about it. But anyways, 4 copies of her. She's really nice, and for some reason she likes showing up a lot in my deck. On to grade 1s, we run 2 copies of Diabolos Madonna Mabel, 7k base, 5k shield, grade 1 with boost. Auto rear, when this unit boosts a vanguard, if you're in final rush, counterblast 1, choose one of your vanguards, and it gets triple drive until end of turn. So basically you get triple drive, you just get 3 drive checks, which is really nice. It's very easy to do. Unfortunately, it has to boost the vanguard. I like how it says it gets triple drive though, implying that there's a way to attack multiple times with the vanguard, because otherwise you could just say, get +1 drive. The fact that it implies triple drive means that there's going to be a way to restand it at some point, or there should be a way to restand it at some point, and they don't want to break it. Either way, 2 copies of this grade 1 because it's really nice. Because you'll see it all often. Next up, we have 3 copies of an interesting card, Protobulb Dragon. Ignore the thing in the top right corner till I get to it. 8k base, 5k shield, grade 1 with boost. Auto rear, when this unit attacks or boost, if you're in final rush, counterblast 1, put another rear guard soul. Choose a card from your soul, add it to hand. Okay, really nice. You can just, swing with your attacks, restand your columns, swing with one column, swing with the other column with this as a booster, use this thing skill, put the front or rear guard from the other column into the soul, or put the booster from that column into soul, or put the vanguard's booster into soul, whatever, and then you can get the card out of your soul. Typically, I like to get a persona ride just so I can loop it. If I have the overtrigger in soul, sometimes I'll get that for defensive options. Otherwise, my normal things are just get a persona ride, get a overtrigger, or get a PG. Those are normally my 3 options that I get. I always have more, but I just choose those 3 most often, and it's all around really good. And it's definitely one of my favorite grade 1s, and definitely partially the reason why I played this deck in the first place. But I know some people don't run him anymore, and I played a deck that doesn't run him either, and I don't know which deck I like more, so I put both of them in here. So you can either run this at 3, or you could run this at 3. Diabolos Madonna Regina, 8k base, 5k shield, grade 1 with boost. Act rear once per turn. If you're in final rush, counterblast 1, put 2 other rear guards to soul. Choose a card from your soul, call it to rear, and it gets +10 for the turn. So pretty much, you have to have 2 other rear guards on board. You send them to soul, you can basically call one of them back out, and it will get +10. And so with this thing. So all around, really nice. It definitely gets you more power. This one is more consistent in terms of getting back more guarding power / getting set up for next turn. This one's more consistent in getting more power. Now, you could run these both in the same deck, but I choose not to because the deck's already decently counterblast heavy. Like, Eden costs counterblast, Deryck costs counterblast, this costs counterblast, one of your orders cost counterblast, and then one of these 2 both cost counterblast. So all around, if you put both of them in the same deck, that's like 6 or 7 cards that focus on counterblasting, and that's a bit too much, especially because all of them you want to actively use as much as possible. So I choose to run one over the other, but I don't know which deck I like more. So I chose to run them with an or, so you could just switch them in between, because I really don't know which one you want more. I mean, in terms of Diabolos naming, I want this one more, and in terms of power, I want this one more, but in terms of consistency, I think this one's better. It's honestly up to you, though. Next up, we have our PG and Recusal Hate Dragon, 6k base, grade 1 boost, 0 shield, contains Sentinel. You may only have up to 4 Sentinels in your deck. Auto, when placed on guard, choose one of your units, and it cannot be attempted battle. If your hand has 2 or more cards, choose a card from your hand and discard it. So, standard PG, nothing too special about it, but it has that ability where if this is in your hand and only one of the cards in your hand, when you place this down, you don't have to discard. And if you have 2 PGs in your hand, that's really nice because that means you can use both of them for free. All around, I like this card. It definitely adds the new effect to PGs. Honestly, I like how Bushy always upgrades their PGs because First, it was just the standard PGs, which was fine. Then when G came in, I mean, maybe it wasn't G, maybe it was in Legion when they started. Legion, they introduced Quintet Walls and never did anything with it. I mean, yeah, they added Quintet Walls with skill somewhere in G, but they were a lot less favorable than PGs. In G, they added PGs that can countercharge. Then they added PGs that had like actual effects based on the deck they're supposed to go in. And then in G, they had everyone had 3 sets of PGs in G. I don't remember what the third set was. It was the binding PGs. That's what I remember. And then in V, they had the draw PGs, and then they had the PGs that have an on Vanguard skill when plays. And then in this one, they had the PGs that have the extra guard ability. So all around, I really like that. That was the other side of PGs, the PGs that could add guarding shield. So all around, I really like I just like the new PGs, and I kind of can't wait to see what Bushiroad does next to upgrade the PGs, because they always do it really fun. So 4 copies of Riskill Hate. And then our last grade 1 in the grade 1 of our ride line, 1 copy in the ride deck of Diabolos Bad Steve, aka base, 5k shield, grade 1 with boost. Auto, when this unit is placed on van, choose a card from your soul, call it to back row center to rear, and soul charge 1, continuous rear. If you're in final rush, it gets +5. Okay, as much as you don't run in the main deck, if you run Protobulb or if you run Lenard, you're almost guaranteed to get this out of soul, because both of them can call stuff or get stuff out of soul. So it's fine just running them in the ride deck, because you can at least get them out of soul with it. So all around, that 5k in Final Rush isn't necessarily useless, because I remember a lot of times I will call this straight out of soul with Lenard just because of 13k booster. So all around, that's really nice. And the All Vanguard ability, you get a free call of just your starter, and then you soul charge 1. If the starter had a rear guard ability, that would be really good. All around, I like this card. 1 of. Only in the right deck, of course, but you can get it out with Protobulb / you get it with Protobulb this, or you could get it out with Lenard. On to grade 2s, we run 3 copies of Diabolos Boy Eden, 10k base, 5k shield, grade 2 with intercept, continues rear guard. If you're in final rush, it gets +5, so just like Bad Steve over here gets +5. That's how all the final rush cards are. If you're in final rush and they have a continuous, but it's most likely +5. And if it stands by an effect, it gets +1 crit. So basically a way to add crit pressure, and if you have the overtrigger on Van, that's already more dangerous, because they have to guard the Vanguard, they now have to guard the Eden, and depending on what your last column is, it either is an on-hit effect like Lenard or another Eden. So all around, it's a lot of threats that go on. So all around, Eden's really good. And then auto rear, when its attack hits, it can hit anything. It can hit a Vanguard, it can hit a rear guard, it can hit a guard circle for some reason, it can hit a damage card for whatever reason. You can counterblast 1 and choose a rear guard and kill it. So, really nice, because automatically, that makes this thing an automatic guard fodder, regardless if it's for the crit or not. If they take it, either on the rear or Vanguard, you can counterblast 1 and kill one of their rear guards, nuking down their board. And honestly, when I know I cannot kill them that turn, I will pump up Eden with a lot of power, swing into a rear guard, use Eden's skill to kill another rear guard, just to murder their board, so that they can't kill me as easily as I couldn't kill them. So, 3 copies of Eden, because all around this card is really nice and really easy to use, and all around he's just really fun using. Next up, we have 4 copies of Diabolos Returner Deryck. By the way, I just want to say, I like how they did all the grade 2s in the deck, because all the grade 2s, they all have different effects. They all have the same final rush, they get +5, but then they all have like a different purpose. Eden is meant to just be the crit stacker / retirer. Lenard's supposed to be the one that can make your rushes easier, and Deryck, all of them have some form of retiring, and then Deryck kind of makes it so that you can call more units easier. All around, they all have like different effects, and I really like it for that. So anyways, Diabolos Returner Deryck, 4 copies, 10k base, 5k shield, grade 2 with intercept. Continues rear guard if you're in final rush, it gets +5. Act rear once per turn, counterblast 1, put a rear guard into soul so it can put himself, and you can still use the skill. Choose one of your opponent's rear guards for every 4 cards to soul and kill it. So if you have, I mean, guaranteedly, if you're doing this on your first final rush turn, you're probably going to have like 8 soul, so you can at least kill 2. And then if you're in final rush, look at the same number of cards on top of your deck up to the number of opponent's open rear guard circles. Choose any number of units from among them, call in the rear, and put the rest to soul. That is straight up Eugene's effect. They stole that from Eugene. That is Eugene's effect in Diabolos. The hell? Like, straight up. Okay, so the first ability, the first part of that, you can use without being in final rush. You can just shove it to soul, counterblast 1, or shove anything to soul. It automatically kill 2 units, because you're probably going to have 8 cards regardless if you're in final rush or not. And then when you're in final rush, you can just look at the top number of cards equal to their open rear guard circle, so at least 2, maybe 3 or 4, and then you can call them and then put the rest to soul. They stole this from Eugene. All around, it's really good though. Like, the 5k is minuscule, and you run it for that field spam effect, but it's really nice, and definitely one of my favorite grade 2s that they've ever made. 4 up. I am disappointed, though, that he took the place of Barrow Magnus triple rare, because every other set 1 deck that was introduced in set 1 got a triple rare, and this deck got the triple rare instead of Barrow Magnus, which I'm somewhat disappointed in, because I really wanted Barrow Magnus to get a triple rare. Like, I don't like Barrow Magnus that much, but it feels like they kind of shafted it with him, because Greedon got their card, and then this got Barrow Magnus' card, but I'm still fine with it, because it's still a good card regardless. So 4 of. 4 of our last actual grade 2 in the deck, Diabolos Jetbacker Lenard, 10k base, 5k shield, grade 2 with intercept. Continues to rear if you're in final rush, it gets +5, and then when this would attack, it battles all of your opponent's units in the same column as it. So same 15k swinger, but also it can murder a column. This is the column killer, and this is the best column killer, because it also has an on-hit effect, which is auto rear. When this unit attack hits, soul charge 1, and if you're in Vanguard, it's Diabolos Violence Bruce. Choose up to 1 card from your soul, called to an open rearguard circle. Okay, first up, that might cause a problem later on, because since we're getting a new Bruce, obviously, unless like they choose to change its name around, or like it happens to have the same name, so you have to pick which one you run, which would be an interesting thing I would like to see somewhat, then this card becomes useless. But still, that on-hit ability, it's a guaranteed soul charge. It still kills a column without relying on Bruce. The only part that relies on Bruce is that you have to call an open rearguard circle. But even then, you don't really need that, because you get the column kill, which is an on-hit. They guard it because they're scared of it, because you get a soul charge out of it. And then if they do take it, you get a soul charge, and you get to call a card, and then you can restand this boy, and since you called a card behind him, he now has a booster, so now he's stronger. All around, really nice grade 2. It is very annoying to deal with, and I think he's part of the reason that they don't allow you to run more than 8 crits now, /draw/front, so 4 of. And then our last grade 2, which is the thing in the ride deck, which, unlike the grade 1 in the ride deck, because he's a booster, you don't call this as often, but you can still call it, like, if you're running low on stuff. Like, you could call it out with Protobulb. So you can get it with Protobulb, but you can call it out with Regina. Or what was the other card that can call stuff out? Was it Lenard, right? So you don't use this as often as the grade 1, because you need more grade 1s and you need grade 2s, but you can still use this if you want to. Diabolos Anger Richard, 10k base, 5k shield, grade 2 with intercept. Auto when it's placed on man, put a rear guard to soul, draw a card, continues rear if you're in final rush, it gets +5, so 15k swinger if that ever matters to you. And automatically when placed on man, you just get a soul card and draw. So it combos out with what was his name? I already forgot his name. Matt. No, not Matt. Steve really well, because you can... How did I forget Steve? Steve is one of my favorite characters. Anyways, it comes out with Steve really well, because Steve calls the starter, and then you send the starter to soul and draw a card. Unfortunately, it dies to decks like Verena, or any deck that can retire early on, because that prevents you from using its skill. But all around, it's still really nice, so 1 of in the ride deck. And then we're on to grade 3s. 3 copies of Upward Acrobat Marjorie. 13k base, grade 3, 200% ride, auto rear once per turn. When this unit attacks, if you're in final rush, cost, put one of your rear guards to soul, draw a card, soul charge 1, and this unit gets +10 for the turn. So automatically it's a 23k swing with an extra 2 soul, because you send something else to soul, then you soul charge again, then you draw a card, then you soul charge again, then you get +10. So I really like that. I try using her ability first, so I'll try comboing her with Lenard to kind of force an open rear guard circle, and then kind of call that card back out, because Marjorie does really well with that power. So 3 copies, because she's a really nice combo card with Lenard. And all around, she's just really good for that soul charging and draw aspect. Of course, she's part of the reason why you deck out really quickly, so be smart with her, but she's really nice. And then our last normal unit, and our main grade 3, 3 of in the main deck, 1 of in the ride deck, Diabolos Violence Bruce. 13k base, grade 3, 200% ride, auto van. At the start of your ride phase, you final rush. Specific units get a power up when you're final rush. It is a state. It is automatically declared. Thankfully, there's no cost to this. I do wonder what the new Bruce is going to do with that final rush, but I cannot wait to see it. And auto van, when this unit attacks, if you are in final rush, soul blast 5, stand all of your former rearguard circles. Stand all of your former rearguards, sorry. So basically, unfortunately, you cannot stand columns, but that would be a bit too good. You can just stand back up Lenard, Eden. This one gets a crit. This one just gets to swing at columns more. Honestly, you just shove him to soul for his own ability, because he's not really that good on rear, besides just to get that effect off. So all around, Bruce is really nice, gets you those 2 restands, and gets you more power out of your attacks, making so you can swing for 5 attacks that turn. And if you have the overtrigger, or like if you're using Eden, it makes it a lot harder for them to guard, because now they have to guard multiple attacks at once, and they're definitely going to go to 6 if they take all of these. So 3 of in the main deck, 1 of in the right deck, and I definitely cannot wait to see what they do with this evolution, because Bruce, being a turn 4 deck, makes him really easy to beat if you can kill him on turn 3. But if they somehow make it a turn 3 deck, oh, Bruce would be fucking terrifying. And then comes our orders. We run 2 copies of our normal order, Brother Soul. Just a grade 1 normal order that just says Soul Charge 2. The most simple order out there, and yet honestly one of the best. It is a free Soul Charge. You can use it at any point in the game, because you have a ride deck, so it's almost physically impossible for you to get grade locked. You just Soul Charge 2. All around, I like this order. It's really nice, and it's just all around amazing. So that's Soul Charge 2. Good. 2 copies. And then we have 2 copies of another order, and I do imagine that a lot of people will question me why I run this instead of the new one, Pandemonium Tactics, just the Soul Charge 4 for no apparent reason, followed by if you have a certain number of cards in Soul and you're in Final Rush, you get certain effects off. I choose to run this one because it is a lot easier to pull off, because the other one decks you out a lot quicker. It may have a really good effect, but it decks you out so much quicker, and this one still gets you a lot of power out of it without decking you out quicker. So honestly, I like this card more. If you want to run Pandemonium Tactics, I can see why. Just replace it with this, but honestly, I like this one more. Hellblast Full Dive. The thing that literally, when I first tested it out, is the sole reason why I OTK'd someone on second grade 3 turns, because play it, Final Rush, I did a Persona Ride, plus 20 to front row. Oh god, Lenard plus this, plus I think it was Eden and Bruce. Oh god, the numbers. The numbers that I hit, the columns that I killed, the rear guards that I slayed. Oh my god, the amount of just destruction I laid waste to. Anyways, Hellblast Full Dive, my favorite order in general, I think. I don't think there's an order that matches this in terms of favoritism. Grade 3 normal order, play it by counterblasting 1, draw a card, choose a card from hand, call it to rear, then if you're in Final Rush, all of your phone, you get plus 10 for the turn. So automatically, that's a Persona Ride. And the problem with Final Rush is that sometimes you will always miss out on your grade 3s because maybe you soul charge them. So there will always be times where you miss out on your Persona Rides, or maybe you just won't draw into them. And the deck definitely needs them to get that power out and make the Final Rush turns a lot more scarier. This does it for you, because as long as you're in Final Rush, you get that 10k off, followed by you just get a draw, and you can just call that draw. So all around, really nice order, definitely does work, and if you can combine it with the Persona Ride, oh god, the numbers are scary. 2 of. I cannot fathom the amount of power this thing does. And then that was the deck. Honestly, I hope you guys enjoy it, because this is really fun. Like, it gets a lot of power, it gets a decent amount of attacks, it can murder rear guards, it can murder a board, and it just does so much for so little, and it is very scary, and the fact that they're upgrading it makes me even happier, because I get to see more chaos reign, and I love this deck so much, and I like it a lot. Like, when Overdose first started, I predicted that I would main 3 decks, Bastion, which is somewhat true, Nirvana, which is completely true, and Bruce. Well, I also thought I made Eugene over Nirvana. That is not true. I still thought I would main Nirvana, which is true, but I did not main Eugene at all, and I thought I would main Bruce. Boy, that is beyond true. Like, oh my god. Bruce, Nirvana, Bastion, I got the all-star lineup over here. I'm Toya, I'm Donji, I'm Yuya. I'm all those people. I'm all the main characters. So all around, I like this deck, and I hope you guys like this deck too. It's interchangeable with whatever you want it to make it. So I hope you guys enjoy. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, donate to the Patreon, join the Discord, follow the Twitch, and I'll see you all in the next one. Don't forget to stand up your vanguards.